They call them resistance grandmas. Trump calls them trouble. We call them heroes. They've seen it all: the marches, the lies, the chaos. And now these women, older, educated, fearless, are forming one of the most powerful political movements in America. The resistance grandmas aren't just voting. They're organizing, they're exposing, and they're taking their democracy back from the brink. Because when democracy was on the line, it wasn't billionaires or lobbyists who stood up first. It was women who raised their families through war and recession. Women who know what happens when power goes unchecked. Women who said, "Not this time." And here's the part that's driving Trump's team absolutely crazy: a secret focus group, run by a Trump-aligned firm, set out to understand why older, affluent white women are turning against him in record numbers. But what they found? It terrified them. These women aren't confused. They're clear-eyed. They've watched Trump's America twist truth into propaganda, decency into hate. They've seen neighbors radicalized by lies. And one of them, one brave woman, did something extraordinary. She turned in her own friend for storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Think about that. Imagine the courage it takes to look at someone you've known for decades and say, "You broke the law, you betrayed our country." That's moral clarity. That's patriotism. And that's what Trump and his followers can't understand. Because for them, loyalty to a man outweighs loyalty to the Constitution. But not for these women. These women know that democracy isn't a fan club. It's a responsibility. The Trump pollsters thought they could study them like lab rats. They thought they'd find confusion or regret. But what they found was conviction. Sharp, informed, unshakable conviction. These women know what's happening to their country, and they refuse to be silent. They're angry, and for good reason. They've seen racism rear its head in the most grotesque ways, like that sign in Virginia, comparing bathrooms for trans people to segregated water fountains. Ugly, cruel, shameful. And yet when asked about it, these women didn't look away. They didn't excuse it. They said the quiet part out loud, that today's Republican extremism has gone too far, and that's the truth Republicans can't stomach. Because this isn't just about policy differences, it's about right and wrong. It's about the moral divide between compassion and cruelty, empathy and ego, democracy and dictatorship. These women, the so-called resistance grandmas, are not radical. They are reasonable, and that's what makes them dangerous to Trump's movement. Because reason, truth, and decency, those are the enemies of fascism. They read, they fact-check, they talk to each other, and they don't live in the social media echo chambers where lies go unchallenged. They see Trump's corruption for what it is: a moral rot spreading through the Republican Party. One woman described it perfectly. She said her cousin, a farmer, turned to Trump because he just wanted to feed his family. But she understood the deeper issue. He wasn't seeing the full picture. He wasn't reading the Washington Post or the New York Times. She was. And that divide between informed awareness and survival mode is what's tearing this country in two. But these women aren't giving up on America. They're not retreating into cynicism. They're organizing, in their neighborhoods, online, in book clubs, and local party meetings. They're telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Because they know silence helps the oppressor, never the oppressed. And here's the irony. Trump's team thought this focus group would give them insight to win these voters back. Instead, it gave the world a mirror, reflecting a movement that's bigger than Trump ever imagined. These women are redefining patriotism, not as a flag-waving performance, but as a moral duty. The courage to say, "You lied, you cheated. You hurt this country. And we will not forget." They've lived through Nixon, Reagan, Bush, and Trump. They know propaganda when they see it. They know gaslighting when they hear it. And they're not afraid to call it out, even if it comes from someone they once called friend. One woman described the moment she realized her friend had been inside the Capitol. She said, "It wasn't a faux-ing open house. That's not disrespect. That's truth spoken without fear. Because when democracy is under attack, politeness is not a virtue." These resistance grandmas aren't fighting for attention. They're fighting for legacy, for the country their grandchildren will inherit, for the America that still believes in equality, compassion, and justice. And as the Trump machine ramps up its culture wars, attacking trans kids, rewriting history, defending insurrectionists, these women stand as a wall of moral clarity. They know the stakes. They've lived the history we're trying not to repeat. And they're saying to Trump and every coward who excuses him, you do not own this country. You do not define patriotism. We do. The pollsters ended that focus group with one simple observation, that these women still hold hope for unity, hope that America can heal. But even they admitted that hope might not survive a culture addicted to outrage. And that's exactly why these women matter, because they refuse to surrender hope, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. They believe this country is worth saving, and they're proving it, one vote, one conversation, one act of courage at a time. So the next time you hear Trump talk about real Americans, remember this. The real Americans are the ones standing up when it's easier to stay seated. The ones calling out lies when it's easier to look away. The ones who put principle above party and democracy above ego. The resistance grandmas are not backing down. Not from Trump, not from the lies, not from the hate. They've been underestimated before. But this time, they're organized, they're mobilized, and they're not asking for permission. Because democracy doesn't need permission to defend itself. It needs participation. It needs people like them, people like you. So if you're watching this and thinking, what can I do? Start here. Talk to your friends. Register to vote. Support those who tell the truth. And never, ever let corruption go unchallenged. Because the story of America has always been written by those who refuse to give up. And right now, the pen is in our hands. The resistance grandmas have shown us what courage looks like. Now it's our turn to carry it forward. Trump's movement is fueled by fear. But this movement, our movement, is powered by something stronger. Hope, truth, and the unshakable will of the people. They thought the resistance was fading. They were wrong. It's just getting started.